Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Wieben. I'm a centered riding instructor and essential somatics practitioner, and I'm also certified in Eden Energy Medicine. So today's topic is centering. When we're centered in the saddle, we're nicely balanced over the horse's center, and it's easy for us to find this position because there's no extra effort having to hold us here. So I'm going to give you a couple of ways to find that position. And before I do, I brought my trusty ball along just to explain a few concepts. So if you imagine your pelvis like a bowl, which essentially it's shaped like a bowl, and your center is in the middle of that bowl when it's balanced. So now if we arch our back, our bowl tips a little bit forward and the ball will roll towards the front of that bowl. And same thing, if we roll back onto our seat bones, that ball rolls back more towards the back of our bowl. So we want that center nicely balanced in the middle of our bowl, making it easy for us to follow our horse's movement. So I'm going to give you a few ways today to find that position on your own. So the first thing I want to have you do is take a nice inhale and think about growing tall. And as you do, just arch your back a little bit. I'll keep my arms forward as if I'm riding. And notice the tension that happens in your lower back when you arch your back. And now as you exhale, come into a rounded position. And in this position, you might notice how there's a little bit of tightness in the front of your body or even up in your chest. Let's put my ball down there for a second. So I'm going to have you do this movement a few times. So we're going to inhale and arch. And then exhale and round forward. Now, if you're doing this in front of a mirror, you could close your eyes and just go back and forth between too much arch and too much rounding. And then each time you go through the middle, see if you can find your neutral. And you're going to make your arch and your round just smaller and smaller each time. So as I come through the center, I think of where neutral might be. I round a little less. And then I arch a little less. And my body might start to find that neutral position in the middle. And then as I open my eyes, I see that I'm balanced, shoulder over hip, hips over ankles, nice and neutral in the middle, and my pelvis is totally aligned. Now another thing you can envision is if you had a laser pointing through from your kind of the top of your tailbone area through your center, it should shine straight ahead. Because if I go back and sit on my pockets, that arrow is going to be pointing up a little bit further. And if I arch forward, my arrow is going to be pointing down. So another thing that this seat position does is if my pelvis is tilted in this position, I'm actually blocking my horse's energy coming through from back to front. So it has a little bit of downward push on my saddle, and I'm blocking my horse's energy, not allowing him to lift his back as well. And when I rock back onto my seat bones, I'm putting more pressure on the lumbar area, which is the weakest area of the horse's back. And I'm not allowing him, again, to lift his back and come through. So I want to find that nice neutral position in the middle where my back is neither too arched or too round. And it's easy for me to be in this position. So another way of finding that position is what we call the teeter-totter. So we're going to, with our eyes closed again, you can start to allow your body to go forward. And as I do this, I start to feel what parts of my body want to grip onto the saddle or hold, where there's tension. And then I'm going to go back behind vertical. And here I start to feel my abdominal muscles starting to work. My inner thighs are holding. And then I'll just start to make this movement smaller and smaller each time I go through center. And we can use the teeter-totter to find that point right in the middle where my body doesn't have to work. There's no tension holding me. And I come back to that neutral position. So one way you can check if you're truly in neutral is you can pull on your saddle. So if I go back to my rounded back and I pull, you can see there's more movement in my body. If I arch my back and pull, I feel like I can get pulled right out of the saddle with that one. So when I'm in neutral and I pull on my saddle, I actually feel like I get a downward pull into my saddle. So like there's no movement in my upper body getting pulled either forward or back. So that's one way you can check by yourself if you're in neutral alignment. In this centered position, let's talk about our leg position as well. So you can see that my heels are below my hips are below my shoulders. But if I was a little bit more rounded and my feet are forward, I'm not truly over my center, and I can actually feel muscles holding me in this position. And my ankles and my knees are quite tight here. So by kind of kneeling down into my knees and just allowing my feet to be nice and light in my stirrups, as we talked about in the grounding video, finding that neutral alignment in the center, I can find this position automatically and just feel like I'm completely balanced over my horse's center. So there's a few ideas that you can play with, and I love doing this. I love downtime because that gives me time to actually experiment and play with things. So I quite often bring my saddle stand into the house during the winter, and I'll put it in front of a mirror. There's actually a mirror in front of me on the wall here. And normally I'd have it facing towards the camera so I could see where my body position is in the mirror. And I'll play around because you can go into 2-point position and play with that a little bit, which we'll talk about in another video. And it really helps with your alignment. And then when you go to ride your horse after winter's over or your break's over, this position is so much easier to find because you're getting that body awareness into your body now. And that muscle memory is starting to build up on how to find this position. So another thing I'd like to share before I finish off this video is when we're in that arch position, the front of our body gets longer and the back of the body gets shorter. And when I go into a rounded back position, the front of my body got really short and the back of my body got long. So another way to find a little bit more of a neutral back, especially if you have that tendency to arch your back, is imagine a clip on the front. So I have my thumb just at my base of my ribs at my sternum and my fingers just below my belly button, and I can start to squeeze my fingers towards each other, and you can see how that took the hollow out of my back. So just by thinking about a clip, because we don't want that length in the front, we don't want our chest to be lifted, we want to think chest comes down just slightly and we shorten the front, which allows the back to lengthen, which takes the hollow out of our back. So that's a nice way to find that position as well. And then you can double check when I pull on my saddle horn, does it pull me into the saddle or am I getting tipped forward? And if you're riding English, you just do the same thing, you pull on your pommel. So there you go. There's a few exercises you can try, and this is a great time to do it when you have some downtime if you're not able to get to your horse. So have fun with that, and I'll see you soon.